Good evening, students. Welcome to the session. I hope you have revised in the last class whatever we have done so far. Can somebody quickly recap what we have done, which sections we have done, what are the rates? If somebody can quickly recap it for me. Yes.
Uh, Last class we have seen for starting virtual digital assets. Virtual digital asset taxed at 30% under section 115 BBH. No deductions are allowed. No set off of losses is allowed. No carry forward of losses is allowed. Uh, if it is without consideration and if the value is greater than 50,000, then it is taxable under section 56 to 10. And if it is inadequate consideration, then fair market value minus sale consideration is greater than 50,000. The difference amount will be taxable under section 56 to 10. And TDS under section 194S, 1% of the sum. And not applicability of the TDS under section 194 yes is specified person, individual or HUF, whose total turnover is less than 1 CR or 50 lakhs for business and profession, and value is less than or equal to 50,000, and other person it is less than or equal to 10,000. And for the payment to the government for specified person within 30 days from the end of the month, and form 26QE within 30 days from the end of the month. And for the other persons, it is normal as applicable to the normally. Then we have seen TDS sections. In TDS, first we have seen TDS on salaries, section 192. Payer is employer, whether resident or non-resident both, and payee is also resident or non-resident both. Then TDS is average rate of tax at rate in force. It is in a Finance Act, Part 2, Schedule 1, at the time of payment. Employee should take declaration in the form 12BB from the employee for any other income, and also employee can declare about any other tax as TDS or TDS has been deducted from any other sections to the employer. And also for the startups, the startup may deduct for the perquisites, deduct the tax and may pay it within the 14 days from the 48 months. Within the 48 months from the date of perquisites is given. And 192A, TDS on withdrawal of PF.
Second, I would like to just correct you over here. So for the startups, what they are saying is within 14 days from the earliest of 48 months from the end of the relevant assessment year, not from when the perquisites are given. Then, or from the date of sale of those particular ESOPs, or from the date when the employee ceases to be the employee. So, earliest of these three will be the point in time when you will have to pay the TDS. Yes, please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Before 5 years continuous of services, payer is trustee of. Ma'am, 1 second, ma'am.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. 192A, TDS on withdrawal of PF before 5 years continuous of services. Payer is trustee of EPF. Payee is employee. TDS at the rate of 10% at the time of payment. Threshold is 50,000 rupees. On 190, next section 193, interest on securities. Payer is any person to a resident at the time of payment or credit at the rate of 10% if it is greater than 10,000 rupees. Threshold is 10,000 rupees. Then 194 on dividends. Payer is domestic company. Payee is the resident. Threshold limit is greater than 10,000 rupees. TDS of 10% at the time of payment or distribution. It is not applicable if it is not paid in cash and if it is less than 5,000 rupees. 194A, interest other than interest on securities. Payer is any person or an individual or HUF whose turnover is greater than 1 CR if it is business income, or if 50 lakhs if it is for a profession, and payee is the resident. Timing at the payment are a credit rate at 10% at threshold. If it is a bank, cooperative bank, or post office, threshold limit is 50,000, and for others it is 10,000, and for senior citizens it is 1 lakh rupees. Uh, if branch wise, it has to be maintained. If CBS is there, then it will be bank wise. TDS is not applicable if interest is paid to the cooperative bank, cooperative society other than bank to its members or to other cooperative societies. Interest paid on deposits, savings deposit with cooperative society other than the banks. Therefore, if interest paid on time deposits or interest on deposits with cooperative bank, the TDS will be applicable. TDS will be applicable above for the cooperative societies if the cooperative society turnover exceeds greater than 50 crore rupees in the preceding financial year, and interest is greater than 50,000, 1 lakh rupees for the senior citizens. Interest paid by the firm to the partners is not considered here. It will be 194T, I think so. Next 194B, TDS on winnings from crossword puzzles. It is rate at 30%, any percent, pay is any percent threshold, 10K for single transaction. Then 194BA, TDS on online gaming, rate in force 30%, deductor any percent, payee any percent, timing at the time of withdrawal. At the time of the withdrawal, how we will be calculating the computation of net winnings? A plus B minus A plus D minus B plus C. A is the amount of withdrawal, plus D is the closing balance, minus B is the non-taxable deposit, plus C is the opening balances. Non-taxable deposit is any amount deposit by the user which is not taxable, and taxable deposit is which is not taxable, like they will be giving starting amount to the SSC. Those are taxable deposits. Then computation of winnings at the end of the financial year: A plus D minus B plus C plus E. And here A, D, B, C are same, and E is the net winnings that is already taxed before. Then 194BB, racehorse rate in force 30%, deduct a bookmaker or arrangement for horse racing, deduct any percent threshold 10K for single transaction, timing payment. मैम एक बार 194A का वो कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज का एक बार बताएंगे ना?
Sure.
नॉन एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ
Yep. Thank you so much. Very good. So 2-3 points that I would like to add with respect to one virtual digital asset also that we had covered. So if you remember, I told you CBDT has clarified through a notification that what are not virtual digital asset? Your reward points, credit card points, airline mileage points, loyalty points. These are not the virtual digital asset. Under virtual digital asset, you have only cryptos and the NFTs, right? And you cannot set off the loss from one crypto or NFT against the other also. And you cannot carry forward it also, right? Then with respect to the 192, there was one more point that I would like to highlight, that the TDS or TCS, which has been deducted or collected in respect of that employee, the employee can also submit the same to the employer so as to not have a higher deduction on his salary, right? Because he can disclose his other income, other salary, he can disclose the loss from the house property. So he has to disclose this as well. Secondly, in respect of the regime, if he does not intimate, it will be as per the default regime. If he intimates that he wants to opt out, he can go as per the old regime, but this intimation is not final. He can change the regime, obviously, when he files his income tax return. Right? Now, coming to the 194A, what did I discuss that thing over here? Let us just go back over the 194A. So, under 194A, TDS is not applicable if the interest is paid to a cooperative bank, or the interest is paid by one cooperative society other than a bank to its members or to any other cooperative society, or on the saving deposit kept with the cooperative society which is not a bank. However, TDS will be applicable if the turnover of the cooperative society is greater than 50 crore in the preceding financial year and interest is greater than 50,000, 1 lakh for senior citizen. Fine. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So let us now proceed further towards the next section, which is, let me share the screen again. 194C. Payment to the contractors. What does it say? Any person responsible for paying any sum to any resident. Right? So here, the payee which is going to be there is going to be who? Only a resident. Are we clear? So here, the payee which is going to be there is only going to be a resident. Because here it is specifically mentioned in that aspect. Fine. Then, what does it say? For carrying out any work, including the supply of labor for carrying out any work in pursuance of a contract between the contractor and a specified person, shall at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. So timing is at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. So basically here this is applicable A to a resident. It is applicable in respect of the contract of work. What is contract of work? We are going to see it. And it is the timing of taxation is what? At the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Deduct the sum equal to 1% where the payment or the credit is given to an individual or the HUF. Right? So 1% in case of the payment made to an individual or HUF, and in case of others other than individual or HUF, 2% of the payment or the credit. Are we clear? So let us just write down over here. (194C). Payments to contractors. Deductor or payer? Any person. Leave some space. We are going to talk about it also. Payee, resident. Then timing, credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Rate, 1% for individual or the HUF, 2% for the others. Fine. Where any sum referred to in subsection 1 is credited to any account, whether called the suspense or by any other name in the books of a person liable to pay such income, such crediting shall be deemed to be the credit of such income to the account of pay. So what they are trying to say over here is that even when you credit to a suspense account, you don't say that, okay, I've actually given the credit to that person. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It will still be considered as what? It will still be considered as the credit of the income. Are we clear? Yes or no? Is this point clear, students, to everyone? Okay. Now, what does it say is, when any sum is paid or credited for carrying out any work referred to in or mentioned to in explanation 4E, What is explanation 4E? Let us try and understand. Explanation 4 here defines the work. How is work defined? Work shall include, this is an inclusive definition, which includes advertising, broadcasting and telecasting, including the production of programs for such broadcasting or telecasting, carriage of goods or passengers by any mode of transport other than railways, catering, manufacturing or supplying a product according to the requirement or specification of a customer by using the material purchased from such customer or its associate, being a person placed similarly in relation to such customer as is the person placed in relation to the assessee under the provisions of section 40A2B. Okay, so what they are trying to say over here, that work shall include all of this: advertising, broadcasting, carriage of goods other than railway, catering, manufacturing or supplying a product according to the requirement of the customer by using the material purchased from the customer itself or its associate. Associate means a related party as per 40A2, but does not include manufacturing or supplying a product according to the requirement of a customer by using a material purchased from any other person other than the customer. So what they are trying to say over here, that this E point which is there, this includes the job work. This E point includes what? The E point includes the job work. Are we getting this particular point? So job work means what? That I manufacture the material or supply a particular product according to the requirement of my customer, but I take the material from the customer itself. If I purchase the material from somebody else, that is not job work. So let's say, when you talk about the bags, right? So the bag manufacturer would be one person, but you put logos, you put some, paint drawings on that bag, you give it to some other person. Now, he will make some drawings or put some logos according to the requirement of the customer itself, and the bag belongs to that customer only. That is a job work. However, if the person manufactures the logos and all and purchases back from third party and then sell it to the customer, that is not job work. That is not covered under 194C. So what they are trying to say over here is that where any sum paid or credited for carrying out any job work, the tax shall be deducted at source on the invoice value, excluding the value of material if the value is mentioned separately in the invoice. Because the material is not service. So on the material portion, you will not deduct TDS. If the value of the material is separately indicated in the invoice, you will only deduct the TDS on the labor charges. However, if the segregation is not available, then you will deduct on the whole of the invoice value. Are we clear with this, students? Yes or no? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Fine. Okay. So what they're trying to say is that under 194C, only when there is a contract of work, only then it will be covered under the 194C. So any person responsible for paying any sum to any resident for carrying out any work in pursuance of the contract. Are we clear? Yes. So we have understood what is the work contract. Clear? Now, no individual or HUF shall be liable to deduct the income tax where such sum is credited or paid exclusively for the personal purposes of the individual or any member of HUF. So where the payment is made for not for the business but for personal purposes, then TDS shall not be applicable under 194C. Clear? Then what they are saying, no deduction shall be made from the amount of any sum credited or paid or likely to be credited or paid to the contractor if such sum does not exceed 30,000, provided if the aggregate of the sums paid during the financial year exceed 1 lakh rupees, then the person shall be responsible for deducting the income tax. So basically, here, what is my threshold? rupees 30,000 or aggregate rupees 1 lakh during the financial year. Are we clear, students?
मैम अगर 1 लाख रुपया क्रॉस हुआ है तो वी हैव टू डिडक्ट टीडीएस ऑन एंटायर अमाउंट और 1 लाख
Correct.
से
Yes. Entire amount.
ओके
Then they say no deduction shall be made from any sum credited or paid to the account of the contractor during the course of business of plying, hiring, leasing good carriages, where such contractor owned 10 or less goods carriage at any time during the previous year and furnishes a declaration to that effect along with his PAN number. So, the contract of work includes the transportation. Yes or no? So, if the contractor is in the business of plying, hiring, or leasing good carriages, and he owns 10 or less good carriage, and he furnishes this declaration, then no TDS will be applicable. So just let's write it down over here. No TDS if in the business of clear? And then they've defined who is the specified person, because if you remember it, they said that in pursuance of a contract between the contractor and a specified person. So specified person here shall mean government, local authority, corporation established or by or under the Central Act, State Act, company, cooperative society, any authority for the town planning, societies registered under Society Registration Act, any trust, any universities, any government of a foreign state or foreign enterprise, any firm or any individual or HUF or AOP or BOI, if their total sales, gross receipts or turnover from the business exceed rupees 1 crore in the case of business or 50 lakh in the case of profession during the preceding financial year. So here the payer means any person, but here it means the government, the local authority, the trust, the society, company, foreign company, and individual HUF, which is there, or AOP or BOI having turnover greater than rupees 1 crore in business or is 50 lakh in profession. Are we clear, students? Any questions, any doubt till now?
clear ma'am.
Okay. So this is about section 194C, the TDS on the contract payment. Okay. So if the contractor is in the case of transport business, it will be nil. Fine. You can just write over here the definition of the contract also. Or the work includes advertising, broadcasting, transport and job work. Using the material of the customer. If event management also included in contract, yes, because the definition of contract is inclusive, it can include anything. Neha. Here you can also include catering. Yes, students, any questions, any doubt? Fine.
Clear.
Okay. Now there are certain circulars and notifications given in your module. Let us look at that. Deduction of tax at source on payment of gas transportation charges by the purchaser of natural gas to the seller of gas. So this is a circular which has been given by CBDT that in the case of the owner or seller of natural gas who sells as well as transports the gas to the purchaser till the point of delivery, where the ownership of the gas is transferred at the time of delivery. So in that particular case, whether it is a work contract or it is a contract for sale. So the CBDT has clarified that even though transportation is included with the sale of gas, it is not altering the nature of basic contract, which is the contract of sale and not a works contract. So therefore, the TDS will not be applicable on the component of the gas transportation charges paid by the purchaser to the seller of the gas. However, if the transportation charges are paid to a third party transporter of gas, either by the owner or by the purchaser, then the TDS will be applicable. However, in that particular case, if he owns less than 10 goods carriage, then in that case, the TDS will not be applicable. Are we clear? Yes?
Ma'am, transportation is done by owner itself, then it is a contract for sale. If it is transportation done by third person, then 194C will be applicable.
Yes, absolutely. Because
Okay.
the basic premise of the contract, is it a contract of work? The answer is no. The basic contract jo hai, that is basically nothing but the contract of sale. What I was trying to do, I was trying to sell the gas. I was trying to sell a particular product. Now, that product which has been there, it is the sale of a product per se, and not something which is a sale of, or the transportation service that I'm trying to provide. So here they have said that it will remain as the contract of sale and not the contract of the transportation. And in that case, the TDS will not be applicable. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next one is a circular again given. Let me. Yeah. Applicability of TDS provision on the payment by the broadcasters or television channel to the production houses for production of the content or program for telecasting. So, TV channels, let's say Star Plus, Z, would pay to the broadcaster, to the production houses. Let's say Balaji Telefilms. If you see now, there are no more any channels per se. There are still channels on Tata Sky, Airtel. If you see, there are still channels. But now they are operating as a standalone apps also. So they are broadcasters. Like we have Zee app, you have Sony Live app, you have Jio Hotstar app, right? Now, latest is that, they have started with this Pyuki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. That's owned by Balaji, right? So if they make the payment to the telecaster or the content producer, production houses, the issue under consideration is whether the payments which are made under the work contract, which require the TDS under 194C, or is it a contract of professional or technical services when the TDS will come under 194J. So the CBDT has clarified that while applying the relevant provision of the TDS on a contract for content production, the distinction has to be made between a payment for the production of the content as per the specifications of the TV channel or the broadcaster, and a payment for the acquisition of the broadcasting or telecasting right of the content already produced by the production house. So what the CBDT is trying to say is that is it a job work wherein on the specifications of, let's say, Star Plus or Jio Hotstar now, the serial or the content or the film has been produced, or the Jio Hotstar is just acquiring the broadcasting or telecasting right of the content already produced by Balaji Telefilms. In the first situation, where on the requirement of Jio Hotstar, Balaji Telefilms comes up with the content, and the copyright of the content gets transferred to the Hotstar, then it is a contract of work, and the 194C will be applicable. So, you have seen a lot of, these documentaries which are produced by Netflix. Now, they may be produced by some particular third party, some content house, some producers. But the ownership of that content lies with Netflix now because the copyrights have been transferred. They have been produced on demand of Netflix. That is where 194C will be applicable. However, in the case where, like for example, Balaji Telefilm has produced the entire serial and only the broadcasting rights are given to Jio Hotstar, it's a content already produced. And there is no contract for carrying out any work which requires a TDS under 194C. Then in that particular case, the TDS will not be applicable under 194C. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. The next circular is the TDS on the GST component comprised in the payment. So, your invoice may be inclusive of GST. So whether you deduct the TDS on the entire invoice value or only on the value excluding the GST, that is the question. So the CBDT has clarified that the GST will not be included in the invoice value for the purpose of TDS because there can't be tax on tax. And this applies not only to 194C but all the other sections of the TDS. Clear? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Next is applicability of TDS provisions on payment made by the transporter to the truck operator or owners for hiring the vehicles. So this is a case of Supreme Court wherein the assessee entered into a contract with a cement company for the contract of transporting the cement to various places in India. That's a normal contract. You enter into contract with the transport owners so that they can send your goods to different places in India. So here you are the transporter, but you are making the payment to a truck owner. You may not own your own trucks. You may have a separate, entity who is owning the truck and you make the payment to them for taking your goods to the various places in India. So I may not, purchase. I may just make a payment to any other entity which is owning the trucks. So I've engaged the services of the other transporter. So the company paid the transportation charges after the deduction of the TDS. Now, without the TDS. So the Supreme Court here observed that in the nature of contract which is entered into by the company, assessee company, which is a cement company, by the assessee with the cement company, it was clear that the responsibility of the assessee to transport the cement of the company and how to transport it was to be taken care by that assessee. Who is the assessee in this case? The transporter. So it's a tripartite contract. There's a cement company which has given the contract to the transport company. Transport company has given the contract to the has has made the payment for the usage of the trucks by the third company. So the question is that when the payment was made for the transportation charges by the cement company to the transporter, TDS was deducted. But when the transport company made the payment to the truck operator, it did not deduct the TDS. So the Supreme Court here noted that the nature of contract which has been there, once you look at it, it is clear that the cement company has assigned the contract to the transporter. And it was then the responsibility of transporter either to transport himself or to give the cement to any other truck operator. And the cement company was not responsible to liaison with the truck operator. There was no contract between the cement company and the actual transporter. So hiring the services of the truck operator was between the transporter and the truck operator. So if the particular truck was not engaged, there existed no contract. But when any truck got engaged to undertake the cement transportation, and the freight charges were payable to the operator, then there existed a contract between both of them. So the Supreme Court opined that the assessee was not acting just as an intermediary between the cement company and the truck operator. The assessee actually entered into a contract with the truck operator. So the assessee actually subcontracted the work to the truck operator. So if you look at 194C, 194C says contract shall include a subcontract also. So therefore, in this situation, the Supreme Court thus held that 194C was applicable and the assessee was under the obligation to deduct the tax at source in relation to the payment made by it to the truck operators for hiring the vehicle for the purpose of transportation of goods. Any doubt? Yes.
मैम अगर वो जो ट्रक का ऑपरेटर जो है एक्चुअल में जो ट्रक का ऑपरेटर जो वो ना हायरिंग कर रहा है वो अगर फ्लाइंग हायरिंग ऑफ द बिजनेस के नीचे आएगा तो उसमें तो नो टीडीएस 194C के नीचे है ना।
करेक्ट
तो फिर उसका टीडीएस काटना मतलब एसएससी डिफॉल्ट में आएगा क्या मैम ट्रांसपोर्टर है जी को?
Correct. So if they have less than 10 vehicles, then in that particular case, there is no TDS, but they need to furnish a declaration along with the PAN. So if you look at here, what they are trying to say is that the TDS shall only be applicable to the payment in the nature of truck transport charges made to a contractor who fulfills the following three conditions. What are the three conditions? Is engaged in the business of plying, hiring or leasing good carriage, owns 10 or less carriage at any time during the previous year and has furnished a declaration along with his PAN. Then only the exemption will be applicable.
अभी ट्रांसपोर्टर जो एसएससी है यहाँ पे लास्ट वाले में जो एसएससी ट्रांसपोर्टर है वो सपोज किसी भी एक ट्रक ड्राइवर को ट्रक एक बंदा है जिसके पास एक या दो ट्रक की है उन लोगों को हायर करके सीमेंट ट्रांसफर कर रहा है तो तब तो टीडीएस काटने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी ना। दिस थ्री कंडीशंस आर सेटिस्फाइड then he will not be
correct
default right ma'am?
Yes. Okay. So this is about section 194C, the most widely used section even in the practice. Okay, let us move further. Next is 194D. Insurance commission. What does it say? Any person responsible for paying to a resident. So who is the payer? Any person. Let us write down simultaneously. Insurance any income by way of remuneration or reward, whether by way of commission or otherwise, for soliciting or procuring the insurance business, including the business relating to the continuance, revival, or renewal of the policies of insurance, shall at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. So my timing of here taxes. Deduct the tax at the rates in force. No deduction shall be made. This is before 1973. No deduction shall be made under this section in the case where the amount of such income, or as the case may be, the aggregate amount of the income credited or paid or likely to be credited or paid during the financial year to the paid does not exceed rupees 20,000. So what is my threshold over here? My threshold is 20,000. Okay? Yes or no? Now, what will be here the rates in force? Yes, what will be my rate in force? Yes, students, faster.
%10% in case of domestic company.
And where do you get this from?
Finance Act.
Very good.
Finance Act. Rate in force.
So rates in force are given in the Finance Act. If you go to the Finance Act Part 2, Schedule 1. Schedule 1 talks about the rates. Right? Under that, 194D TDS rates are given. On the income by way of insurance commission, in case of a person other than a company where the person is resident in India, it is 10%. Sorry, on the income by way of insurance commission, it is 2%. Where the person is non-resident, then it will go under 195. It will not come under 194D because 190D covers only payee as a resident. And in the case of the company, in the case of a company, they have, I don't think they have given any rate here for the commission. Yes, it is 10%. So in the case of a company, it is 10%, and in the case of any other person, it is 2%. Are we clear? So that is how you find the rates in force. Clear, students?
Yes.
Yes? Okay,
yes,
so let's write down. Any questions, any doubt? Yes.
When we say any person, does it include non-resident also?
No, because here the act itself says you that this is payee is only resident.
Payer. I'm asking about payer. Any person?
Payer, yes, includes any person. Even the
Even
non-resident.
non-resident. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let us move further. Next is 194DA. Payment in respect of life insurance policy. So 194DA is any person responsible for paying to a resident any sum under a life insurance policy. So who is the deductor over here? Life insurer. Who is the deductee? Resident. And the sum is paid in respect of the life insurance, including a sum allocated by way of bonus on such policy other than the amount not includable under section 1010D. What is 1010D?
एजम्पशन मिलता है मैम लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के लिए.
How much is the exemption? Yes, how much is the exemption? Yes. Yes, faster. We have done that.
I think it is 2.5 lakhs.
Sorry?
2.5 lakhs?
2.5 or 5 lakhs? What is it? Yes. Yes, please. Two 2.5 or 5? 5 is for what?
Yeah, 5 lakhs. I think there was an amendment. Yes, 5 lakhs.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have done this in which class? We have done that in the class of income from other sources. Yes. We have done that in the class of income from other sources. And
Exactly.
yes, there is what is the limit given over there for the life insurance? 5 lakh. So premium is less than 10% or 15% of the sum assured, and it does not exceed rupees 5 lakh. Then it is the sum received on the life insurance will be exempt under 1010D. Clear? So at the time of payment of the sum, deduct the income tax at the rate of 2% on the amount of income. So only when it is taxable, only then there will be TDS. So TDS at the rate of 2% on the income. Your income means what? Income here means your amount received minus the amount paid as insurance. Because this is the sum 2% on the income. However, no deduction shall be made if the payment are less than 100,000, which means what? 10,000 rupees. Sorry, 1 lakh rupees. 100,000 is what? 1 lakh rupees. Clear? Yes or no? So here we'll solve one question also. Let us solve a question from module. Examine the applicability of the provisions of the TDS under 194 DA. Mr. X is due to receive 4.5 lakh on 30th June towards the maturity proceeds of LIC on 1st July 2021, for which sum assured is 4 and the annual premium is 1,25,000. Yes. Yes, please, faster.
Since जो प्रीमियम पे कर रहा है एनुअल प्रीमियम इज पेड इज मोर देन 10% ऑफ द सम एश्योर्ड 4 lakhs, so 1010D will not be applicable here.
1010D will not be applicable.
Yes, ma'am. Annual premium is 1,24,000, right, ma'am? And sum assured is 4 lakhs. So which is greater than 10%. So deduction under 1010D will not be applicable.
Correct. That's right. So what
then,
will be the TDS on?
Then we have to deduct the TDS on the income. So
correct.
Received it is received 4.5 lakhs and 1,25,000 into 1 to 3 years.
Correct.
Into minus 3,75,000.
Correct. Very good. So here my annual premium which is there is 1,25,000. This is more than the 10% of sum assured. What is 10% of sum assured? 40,000. This is 1,25,000. So this is therefore not exempt under 1010D. So 4.5 lakh minus 1,25,000 into 3, because the policy is maturing on 30th June 2024 and I have taken in 21. So for 21, 22, 23. For 3 years I have paid the premium. So I will reduce that, and on the balance 75,000 I will have to deduct the TDS at the rate of 2% if it is a other than company. If it is company, then 10%. Here 5% old rate is written. It is 2% now. Clear? Fine. Next is Mr. Y, a resident, is due to receive 3.95 lakh on LIC taken on 31/12/2011, for which sum assured is 3.5 lakh and the annual premium is 26,100.
It is before 2012, so it is 20% of the sum assured. 3.5 lakhs into 20,000 is 70,000, and the annual premium is 26,100, which is less than 20%. So it will be exempt
Correct.
under section 1010D. So no TDS will be applicable.
So this policy is before 2012. So the limit was 20%, not 10%. So in this particular case, it will be, in exam, 2% will be applicable, Neha. 2% will be applicable. So in that particular case, it will be, it is less than 20%. So in that case, this is exempt under 1010D. Third is Mr. Z, a resident, is due to receive 95,000 on 31st July 2024 towards the maturity proceeds of LIC policy taken on 1/8/2017, for which the sum assured is 90 and the annual premium is 10,000.
Sum assured is 90,000. It is 10%. 2024 में 10%. So 10% is 9,000 and the annual premium is greater than 9,000, which is 10,000. So 1010D will not be applicable here and TDS will be applicable.
TDS will still not be applicable because how much he is receiving?
It is less
95,000.
than, it is less than
Correct.
1 lakh, so TDS will not be applicable.
Correct.
Yes.
So even though 1010D is not applicable, it is not exempt. But since it is less than 1 lakh rupees, therefore in that particular case, TDS will not apply. Clear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So Neha, if you see, it is 2% on or after 1/10/2024. In that question, it was taken because the payments were made before 1/10/2024. So this was on 30th June 2024. So that is the reason why they had taken the old rate of 5% Neha. Are we clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Next section is 194 EE. First, we'll do 194 EE, payment in respect of deposit under the National Savings Scheme. So the person responsible for paying to any person any amount referred to in 80 CCA 2A, which is the National Savings Scheme, shall at the time of payment deduct the income tax at the rate of 10%. However, no deduction shall be made where the aggregate amount of payment is less than 2,500 rupees. Are we clear? So it's a very small section. Let us just write it down. 194. TDS on from NST. Okay. So TDS is 10%. Threshold is 2,500. Clear, students? Very simple section. Yes or no? 194E, we will do it at the end when we will be doing the combined non-resident payments. Okay. Next is 194G, commission on sale of lottery tickets. So any person who is responsible for paying to any person who is or has been stocking, distributing, purchasing or selling the lottery tickets, any income by way of commission, remuneration or price on such tickets in an amount exceeding 20,000 rupees shall at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier, deduct the income tax at the rate of 2%. So 194G is commission on sale of lottery tickets. Okay. So deductor, any person. Again, deduct the When TDS is 2%, threshold is, how much is the threshold? 20,000 rupees. And is credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Yes, very simple section again. Commission on sale of lottery tickets. Fine. Okay. Next is 194H. Commission or brokerage. G is only on sale of lottery tickets. H is general commission or brokerage. So any person not being an individual or HUF who is responsible for paying to a resident any income by way of commission, not being the insurance commission under 194D. So insurance commission is under 194D, lottery commission is under 194G, this is general commission. So section 194H, commission. So payer here will include any person. For individual or HUF, we'll talk about later. Pay is my resident. For the payer, what they say, an individual or HUF whose total sales, gross receipts or turnover from the business exceeds rupees 1 crore in the case of business or 50 lakh in the case of profession in the immediately preceding financial year. So, for individual or HUF, turnover okay. Shall at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier, deduct the income tax at the rate of 2%. So what is my timing here? What is the threshold? Threshold is if the no TDS will be there if the amount does not exceed rupees 20,000. So my threshold here is 20,000. No deduction under this section shall be made on any commission or brokerage paid by Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited or Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited to their public call office franchisees. Fine. Then what do they say? Commission or brokerage includes any payment received or receivable directly or indirectly by a person acting on behalf of another person for service rendered, not being the professional services or for any services in the course of buying or selling goods or in relation to any transaction relating to any asset, valuable article or thing, not being the securities. So this is the definition of commission which has been given. Now let us look at some of the instances over here, some of the case laws and the circular. One case is regarding the applicability of the TDS provision on the payment by the television channel and publishing houses to the advertisement companies for procuring or canvassing for advertisement. The first thing that we had seen was with respect to the payment by the TV channel to the under 194C, what was the circular that we saw? Payment by the TV channel to the
Production house.
production house for producing the content on their specification or for buying the telecasting right. That was the question under 194C. Here the question is on the payment by the TV channel to the advertisement company for procuring the advertisement. So the advertisement company will do what? They would sell the slots on the TV channel for the advertisement. Right? So let's say, for example, if Nirma wants to advertise its washing powder, so it will make a payment to the advertisement company and for purchasing the slot on, let's say, Doordarshan. So Doordarshan will make payment to the advertisement company to get this particular advertisement running on Doordarshan slot. So there are two payments involved in the advertising business. One, when Nirma will pay to the advertising agency for giving them the slot of advertisement. And second, the advertising agency, payment by the advertising agency to the TV for the purchase of that slot. So the applicability of the TDS is under question under these. So when the Nirma will pay to the advertising company, TDS will be under what section?
Is a contract.
It's a work contract.
Contract. 194C.
194C. Work contract specifically includes the advertisement.
Advertisement.
Correct? So that is very, very clear. When the advertisement company will pay to Doordarshan, right? Or when the Doordarshan pays to the advertisement company for, as a commission, something of that sort to procure the advertisement, what will be the TDS? So the CBDT has clarified that there will not be any TDS under 194C on the payment by the advertising company to the media company. However, whether the advertising company which retains some portion before making the final payment to the Doordarshan as a result for canvassing or booking the advertisement, whether it is in the nature of commission, which will attract the TDS under 194H. So the CBDT has clarified that no TDS is attracted on the payment made by the television channel or newspaper companies as well to the advertising agency for procuring the advertisement. And it has clarified that the payment by the media companies to the advertisement company for booking of advertisement is not covered under 194H. Are we clear? Any question? So this has been clarified by CBDT that whatever portion that they retain is not in the nature of commission, which will attract the TDS under 194H. Are we clear, students?
मैम अभी निर्मा जो एडवर्टाइजिंग कंपनी को बेच रहा है वो 194C के नीचे टीडीएस आ जाएगा. अभी जो दूरदर्शन चैनल है जो एडवर्टाइजमेंट कंपनी को पैसा दे रहा है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कमीशन वो 194H के नीचे नहीं आएगा. तो किसके कौन सा सेक्शन के नीचे आएगा मैम फिर वो कमीशन?
So they are saying it will not attract any TDS. So when I talk about, let's say this is my ad company. It takes the 100 rupees, let's say from Nirma, for the advertisement on Doordarshan. So this is works contract. So here there will be TDS under section 194C. When Doordarshan gets 90 rupees. So this retains the 10 rupees for procuring the ad. So on this, the CBDT circular says no TDS. Are we clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now we look at some cases in that aspect. Let me take you certain cases. So, the question before the Supreme Court in Ahmedabad Stamp Vendors Association was, can the discount given to the stamp vendors on purchase of stamp papers be treated as commission or brokerage so as to attract TDS under 194H? So what does it mean? So what happens when you purchase the stamp paper, right? Stamp papers are issued by whom? The government, right? So when these stamp papers are taken by some, these shopkeepers, there are certain vendors sitting outside the court. So they would, buy the stamp paper at, let's say, 100. But they will give it to you at 110, 120. So 10 or 20 rupees is their commission. Right? So, or let's say, for example, they will sell 100 rupees ka stamp paper at 100 only. But they would buy from the government at, let's say, 70 or 80. So the balance which is there, the discount which is given to them is nothing but their commission. So whether it is actually a commission or is it a discount? So the Supreme Court has observed that the stamp vendors are required to purchase these stamp papers. They are not required to, just take it from the government and sell it to the customer. They will take it on their own account. They will purchase it at a discounted price on the principal to principal basis. They are not operating as an agent for government. There is no contract of agency here. So the definition of the brokerage or commission which is given under 194H, it says it includes any payment by a person acting on behalf of another person. Here the vendor purchases, let's say, 100 rupees stamp paper in bulk at a discounted price. I'm not acting as an agent for the government. So the contract is on principal to principal basis. There is no contract of agency. So when the vendors take the purchase of these stamp papers, they purchase it at a discounted price and then they sell it to the customers at the retail price. And these cannot be termed as the contract of agency, but this is a retail trade that they are doing, buying and selling of stamp papers. So the discount on the purchase does not fall within the expression of commission or brokerage, so as to attract the TDS under 194H. Are we clear? Yes? Is this point clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next case is in the case of Prasar Bharati. Now, what is this case about? Let us understand. So, before the Supreme Court, the question was that this Doordarshan which is there, right? Same thing what we had seen in the circular. So, for the purpose of telecasting the advertisement, it enters into agreement with the advertising agencies so that Doordarshan gets the ad from them. And agencies, if they give a minimum annual business, then they can retain 15% of the advertisement amount as their commission. Right? So when they take it from Nirma, they can retain 15% of it as a commission and balance pass it on to the Doordarshan. So technically, it is a commission. Right, isn't it? So here the Supreme Court observed that the relationship was purely an agency agreement because the advertisement agency is functioning on behalf of the Doordarshan. So technically it is commission. However, CBDT has clarified that here the TDS under 194H will not be applicable. So the CBDT, since it has, so even the Supreme Court decision is there. So CBDT has clarified 194H is not attracted from the payment remitted to the television channel or newspaper company. Are we clear? The CBDT has clarified that this contract is not of agency, but is on the principal to principal basis. Are we clear? Any questions, any doubt? But if the contract is such that that it appears that they are agent and not functioning on principal to principal basis, then it's a case of 194H. Clear? Yes or no?
Clear, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The last case on 194H is Bharti Cellular Supreme Court judgment. Again, the question here was that when you recharge your mobile, right? Earlier, you used to go to the stores to get it recharged. Now you can do it via the app itself. This is a very old like ruling. Of course, it is given in 2024, but pertains to old period because it takes time to reach the matter to the Supreme Court. So, there used to be these recharge vouchers which you used to scratch it and, like recharge your mobile. Even now, some people do it who are not able to access the apps and all. So, these stores purchase these recharge vouchers or, the SIM cards, startup kits at a discounted price from Airtel or Vodafone and sell it to you at the MRP. So, whether this is a commission and therefore TDS should come under 194H. So here the Supreme Court observed that whether the stores which are purchasing this, whether they are acting as an agent or working on the principal to principal basis. So for that you need to examine whether he makes a profit for himself or is entitled to a pre-decided remuneration. If you work for yourself, you will try to maximize the profit as much as possible. Right? Then you are an independent contractor. So if you are acting as a distributor, that means you will try to sell it at maximum price as much as possible. However, if you work like an agent, you are having a pre-decided remuneration. So the distributors which are purchasing these recharge voucher are paid, you can purchase it at a discounted price and they can sell it at whatever price they want but not go above the MRP. So they can sell it up till the MRP at whatever price. So here, when we talk about 194H, so 194H gets attracted where the person is acting as an agent. Here, if you look at the definition of 194H, it says payment received directly or indirectly by a person acting on behalf of another person. So the Supreme Court here noted that 194H fixes the responsibility to deduct the TDS on the person responsible to pay when the income is paid to the person. So the expression direct or indirect, which is used over here, either directly or indirectly, is meant to ensure that the person responsible for paying does not just shirk away the responsibility of deducting the TDS. Even when he doesn't pay directly to the agent, but indirectly through other means. But here, if you look at it, the assessee is not actually paying the commission. He is selling it at a discounted price. Airtel is selling at a discounted price to the retailers. Retailers then can sell at any price to the customer. So, assessee is not paying any commission per se. The assessee does not even know at what price the retailer will sell to the customer. So how can he deduct the TDS? So basically the retailers are buying on the principal to principal basis. Hence 194H will not apply in this particular case. Are we clear? Yes or no? Any questions? Any doubt?
Clear, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So this completes your 194H. After break, we will move to 194I, which is TDS on rent. Okay. So let us take a break over here and we start after the break. Ashok ji? students, which is 194I, TDS on rent. Okay. So what does it say? Any person not being an individual or HUF. For individual or HUF, again, the same conditions apply, which is that an individual or HUF whose total sales, gross receipts or turnover exceeds 1 CR in the case of business or 50 lakh in the case of profession during the preceding financial year. Right? So, who is the payer in our case now? My deductor is any person for individual or HUF turnover greater than 1 crore for business or for profession. Fine, students. Then, who is the payee here? Who is responsible for paying to a resident any income by way of rent? So this includes only a resident. Shall at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment thereof. So my timing is credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Shall deduct the income tax at the rate of 2% for the use of any plant, machinery or equipment. 10% for the use of any land building, including factory building or land appurtenant to a building, including factory building or furniture or fittings. So, what is the TDS? 2% for plant and machinery or the equipment. 10% for land and building or furniture. No deduction shall be made where the income by way of rent credited or paid for a month or a part of month by such person to the account of or to the payee does not exceed rupees 50,000. So what is my threshold now? Rupees 50,000. Are we clear? Then it says no deduction shall be made under this section where the income by way of rent is credited or paid to a business trust, being a real estate investment trust in respect of any real estate asset referred to in 1023 FCA owned directly by such business trust. What does it mean, students? You will have to explain to me.
रीट स्पेशल पर्पस व्हीकल्स में जब वो होल्ड करते हैं तो रेंटल इनकम देते हैं तो वहाँ पे 194I एप्लीकेबल नहीं होता है.
Why?
इट इज अ पास थ्रू एंटिटी. यूनिट होल्डर्स के ऊपर टैक्स लगता है.
Correct. So REIT is not taxable because of the exemption under 1023 FCA. So therefore there will not be any TDS on the rent paid to the REIT. Clear? Then rent here means under any lease, sublease, tenancy or any other agreement for the use of any land, building, factory building, land pertinent to a building or factory building, machinery, plant, equipment, furniture, fitting, whether or not they are owned by the payee. Clear? Now coming back to the module here, let us look at some of the circulars for the 194 Act. Payment made by the customers on account of cooling charges to the cold storage owners. What are the cold storage? What is a cold storage, students?
Goods are kept toward the cold storages by the owners.
Correct.
Like chilies.
So to preserve, correct. To preserve certain goods, you have to keep it in cold storage, which, are perishable goods. So if the customer pays for the cold storage charges, whether it is rent, so the CBDT has clarified that the main function of the cold storage is to preserve the perishable goods by means of having that, process of storing the goods under that cool conditions. So the customer is not given any right to use a demarcated space or place, or right to use any machinery of the cold storage. And thus, this doesn't qualify as a rent. The assessee is not the tenant who makes the payment. Therefore, 194I will not be applicable. But since this arrangement between the customers and the cold storage owners is there of a contract, it's a contractual in nature, then 194C will be applicable on this particular amount. Are we clear? Yes or no? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Next one is remittance of passenger service fee by an airline to an airport operator. So what is this passenger service fee? So what happens is, in the case of the airline industry, right? In the case of the airline industry, there are certain charges which are levied by the Airport Authority of India. There are different charges which are levied by the Airport Authority of the India. And one such charge is passenger service fee. Any idea what is it?
पैसेंजर्स को मेंटेनेंस का वो सबका कोई मतलब ठीक है.
So I'll explain you what is it. It is a part of the passenger fare of the air travel. So a passenger service fee is, added to the cost of airline ticket to fund different operations on the airport. Airport security. So, when you enter the airport, you have to do the security check-in. There are certain facilities which are given to you, which is in the nature of wheelchair, assistance, right? Or, waiting areas. There are certain other facilities which are given to you on the airport to take your baggage there. A lot of facilities are there. So the passenger service fee is charged, which is also part of the ticket also. Now, when these payments are made by the airline, so it is collected from the customer although, but the airline has to pay at the end to the airport operators. Let's say Adan. Whether this qualifies as a rent under 194I. So the Bombay High Court, in the case of Japan Airlines and Singapore Airline case, it has observed that the payment is a rent when it is for the usage of land, building, and if there is only incidental use of the land or building, then it is not rent. Because if you look at the definition of the rent, it is for the use of any land. But this passenger service fee which is charged is a combined fee which is charged for all the facilities. And the usage of the land is incidental. That is not technically for the use of land. And therefore 194I will not get attracted on the passenger service fee. So the CBDT the circular has clarified that 194I will not be applicable on the passenger service fee in line with the decision of the Bombay High Court. Are we clear? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next is payment of lease rent, supplemental lease rent made by a lessee to a lessor being a unit in IFSC for lease of an aircraft. So any lease rent or supplemental lease rent which is made by a lessee of the aircraft. So when you take the aircraft on lease, and if it's a unit of an IFSC, when it makes the payment, there is a notification which has been issued by the central government that the TDS under 194I will not be applicable on such lease rent for the lease of aircraft if the unit is located in IFSC, subject to the condition that the lessor furnishes the declaration giving the details of the years in which it is claiming the exemption, and the lessee then would not deduct the TDS. So then no TDS will be required under 194I. However, the relaxation is available to the lessor during the previous year relevant to the 10 years within which, so to the assessment year in which he has claimed the deduction under section ATL. So for the 10 years for which he has claimed the deduction under ATLA, in that will be applicable. So this is in order to incentivize the IFSC unit. So IFSC units claim the exemption under ATLA. So for the years it is claiming the ATLA, in those years the TDS under 194I will not be applicable on the lease rental for the aircraft. Clear? Yes?
Clear, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Next is TDS on the GST component of rental income. As I said, whether you take the rental income or for any other payments that we have discussed, whether you will charge TDS on the GST component, the answer is no. So there can't be tax on tax. So you have to charge the TDS on the amount excluding the GST. Fine. Next is lump sum lease premium paid for the acquisition of long-term lease. So, you sometimes pay a premium, lease premium for acquiring the land, building for a long-term lease of 99 years, 100 years, like that. So when you pay that lump sum lease premium or upfront lease charges, which are technically to get that long-term lease and are not in the nature of periodic rent payment or are not to be adjusted against the rent payment in future. Whether those can be called as rent, the CBDT has clarified no. These are not rent because these are one-time charges. These are not adjustable against the periodic rent payment and therefore the TDS under 194I will not be applicable in that case. Fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next is payment of lease rent or supplemental lease rent made by a lessee to a lessor being a unit located in IFSC for lease of a ship. Same thing. What was there for the lease of aircraft? If a unit of IFSC is leasing the ship or an aircraft and the rent is paid to them for the 10 assessment years when it is claiming the exemption under ATLA and it furnishes the declaration to the lessee, in those cases, there will not be any TDS under 194. So same thing for the aircraft is applicable over here. Fine. Any questions? Any doubt? Okay.
Clear, ma'am.
Let us discuss some of the cases then now in this context. Are the landing and parking charges paid by the airline company to the Airport Authority of India in the nature of rent to attract the TDS under 194I? This is a Supreme Court ruling in the case of Japan Airline. So when the airlines paid the landing and the parking charges to the Airport Authority of India for landing their aircraft, taking off, for parking the aircraft until it is, like in operation, whether it is in the nature of rent. So the Supreme Court has clarified that these charges again are like, the passenger service fee. They are for the services and facilities offered in connection with the aircraft. Right? These are combined charges and not just for the usage of land. Because these charges are not only for parking and landing, but are also for providing the ground safety services, air traffic services, aeronautical communication services. So these are not only for the usage of land. And therefore the TDS under 194I will not be applicable in this case. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Next is the Delhi High Court judgment in the case of Indus Towers Limited. Is the payment for the use of infrastructure facility such as mobile towers subject to deduction under 194C or 194I? So, Indus Towers operated the telecom towers and infrastructure services which are then let out to the Vodafone, Airtel, to transmit their services to towers. You see towers near the buildings and all of that. So, whether when they let out these towers to the telecom operator, whether this qualifies as the rent So the Delhi High Court observed that the dominant intention here was, yes, the usage of the equipment or plant and machinery. The towers are nothing but the equipments. So therefore, yes, there will be a TDS under 194I. But whether there will be TDS of 2% for the usage of plant and machinery, or whether there will be TDS of 10% for the usage of plant and machinery along with the land. So the Delhi High Court answered that the usage of the plant and machinery was the dominant intention or the equipment. Land is incidental. It is constructed on the land, so land is incidental. It is not for the usage of land. So the TDS will be at the rate of 2% and not at the rate of 10%. Fine? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next case is of Allahabad High Court in the case of CIT versus Senior Manager SBI. The question was in respect of a co-owned property, where the property is owned by two owners and the rent is being paid to the two owners separately. Now the 194I gives you the threshold of 50,000. Whether this threshold is qua the property, qua the rent that you make, the total rent, or it is qua each owner. So whether you account for 50,000 of the rent for one owner, 50,000 of rent for another, if it is below, you will not deduct the TDS, or whether it is for the total rent paid for that property. So the Allahabad High Court said that since the share of each owner is given, it is definite. Any which ways, they cannot be assessed as an AOB. So income will be assessed in the hands of each of the co-owners. Right? And since the payment of rent is made to each co-owner by way of separate check, the shares are definite. The threshold has to be seen qua each owner and not qua each property. Are we clear? Yes or no?
तो मतलब रेंट जो हर एक ओनर को कितना पेमेंट करते हो उस पे एप्लीकेबल है 50,000 पर मंथ पर ओनर.
Correct.
Okay.
Fine. Any other question? Okay. The next case which is there now, this is in connection with the Gujarat High Court decision of Sri Mahalakshmi Transport Company. The question was whether payment is made by a transporter to the contractors for hiring the dumpers, whether it is rent for the machinery or whether your 194C contract will apply, work contract will apply. So here, same case as the transport and the truck owners, the case that we had seen earlier. So when the assessee has given the contract for the transportation of goods, it is for the combined transportation and not just for renting out the plant and machinery or equipment or the truck. These are not rent paid for the use of trucks. The payment is in the nature of contract of transportation. And therefore here 194C will be applicable and not 194I. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let us move further then. Next one is 194IA. Payment on transfer of the immovable property other than the agricultural land. It says any person being a transferee. So who is my deductor? Sorry, TDS on transfer of immovable property. So any person being a transferee. So my deductor is responsible for paying other than a person referred to in 194 LA to a resident transferor. So deductee here is a resident transfer. Any sum by way of consideration for the transfer of immobile property other than the agricultural land shall at the time of credit to the account of the transfer or at the time of payment. So my timing here is again deduct an amount equal to 1% of the sum or the stamp duty value of such property, whichever is higher. So my TDS is 1% of the consideration or the stamp duty value, whichever is higher. However, no deduction shall be made where the consideration for the transfer of immobile property and the stamp duty value of such property are both less than 50 lakh. So what is my threshold here? Consideration and SDV. Both should be less than rupees 50 lakh. Provided that where there is more than one transferor or the transferee in respect of immobile property, meaning there is more than one buyer or one seller, then the consideration shall be the aggregate of the amount paid or payable by all the transferees to all the transferors for the transfer of immobile property. So here what they are saying is, this has been an amendment, that this threshold has to be seen as aggregate amount all transferors and all the transferees. So meaning, let's say if my consideration is 50 lakh, 20 lakh, let's say for example, let's say this is my property. Consideration is, let's say rupees 50 lakh. Now this is the buyer, this is the seller. So let's say there are two buyers, A and B, and they are in the ratio of, or let's say this is 55 lakh. Let us assume. Let's say both are in the ratio of 50-50%, and then there are two sellers. Let's say 60-40%. Now, technically, for 194I, what did I tell you? For the co-owners, you have to apply the limit for each of the co-owners. Isn't it? So this threshold, as per the judgment, you have to see for each co-owner. But for 194IA, they have said you have to see for both the co-owners. So just because if the 55 lakh is divided between the two, so what is the half of 55 lakh? What is half? 27.5. So if it is 27.5 for this, 27.5 for this buyer, doesn't mean they will not deduct the TDS. And similarly, if you look at 60% of this, so let's say 33 lakh for this and 22 lakh for this, doesn't mean you will not deduct the TDS. You will still continue to deduct the TDS. Clear? Then they say the provisions of 203A shall not apply to a person required to deduct TDS in accordance with the provision of this section. What does this mean? 203A means the requirement to obtain the TAN number, tax deduction and collection account number. So every person who is deducting the TDS has to apply for the tax deduction account number, TAN number. Are we clear? So without that, you will not be able to make the payment of TDS. You will not be able to file the returns of TDS. You will not be able to give them the certificate of your TDS. However, for the purposes of 194IA, they have said you don't need to obtain the TAN. So this section doesn't require for the buyer to obtain the TAN. They can do so PAN. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Clear, ma'am.
Here, they have said agricultural land means agricultural land in India not being a land situated in area referred to in 214. 214, do you remember? What was it? Capital asset definition. Yes or no? Yes or no? Capital asset. It excluded the rural agricultural land. So they are saying agricultural land here means rural agricultural land, not the urban agricultural land. So if it is urban agricultural land, it will attract the TDS. So here, agricultural land, if I talk about, this is the rural agricultural land. So on urban agricultural land, there will be TDS. 214 consists of the definition of capital asset, right? Which excludes the urban agricultural land. Sorry, which excludes the rural agricultural land. So here what they are saying is agricultural land means agricultural land in India, not being a land situated in an area referred to in 240AB of subclause 3. So means they are saying urban agricultural land doesn't include here. So here other than the agricultural land here means rural agricultural land. Are we clear? Then they say consideration for the transfer of any immobile property shall include all charges of the nature of club membership fee, car parking fee, electricity, water facility fee, maintenance fee, or any other charges of similar nature which are incidental to the transfer of immovable property. So basically here the consideration will include all the charges. Like if you, let's say for example, if you look at the agreement, they would list out all the different charges. Consideration for the transfer, then clubhouse charges, garden fee, maintenance charges, electricity charges, all of that will be included because otherwise the builder will try to reduce the threshold to lesser than 50 lakh. He will try to bifurcate into different charges and reduce the consideration amount. So therefore, there they say consideration will include all the charges. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Any questions? Any doubts so far? Yes or no?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. So let us solve a question from the module here. Mr. X sold his house property in Bangalore as well as his rural agricultural land for a consideration of 60 lakh and 15 lakh respectively to Mr. Y on 1st August 2024. He has purchased the house property and the land in the year 2023 for 40 and 10 lakh respectively. The stamp duty value on the date of transfer is on 1/8/2024 is 85 and 20 lakh for the house and rural agricultural land respectively. Examine the tax implication in the hands of Mr. X and Mr. Y and the TDS implication in the hands of Mr. Y, assuming both are resident Indians. So yes, let's talk about first Mr. X, who is the seller. Let's first talk about the house property.
Capital gain, it will be a capital gain, ma'am. Since it is more than 110%, stamp duty value is more than 110% of the consideration. So capital gain will be 85 minus 40 lakhs. And it is less than within a year, 12 months. So it will be short-term capital gain.
Correct. So what is the amount of capital gains that you are saying?
85 minus 40. 45.
It comes to 45.
40.
Yes. So here if you look at the consideration which is there is how much? Consideration given is 60 lakh. Correct? And the stamp duty value of the property is 85 lakh. So the stamp duty value is 110% of the consideration. Right? So we will take the stamp duty value as per 50C. So 85 lakh minus 40 lakh. Will the indexation apply? No. This is any which way is a short term, and now indexation is no more there also. Right? So here this is the short term capital gain which is there because he has purchased on in 2023. What is the period of holding for the land?
24 months.
24 months, correct?
24
So here this would be short term capital gain. So 45 lakh will be my short term capital gain. Now what about Mr. Y?
Mr. Y has paid 60 lakhs for this. So he has to deduct TDS. TDS on this at 1% on the stamp duty value. 85
But
lakhs.
will there be any other tax implication in the hands of Mr. Y?
Since he got less than stamp duty value, 85 minus 60, 15 lakhs will be taxable.
Under which section?
Income from other source.
Correct. Under 56(2)(10). So, in the hands of Y, he has received the property for inadequate consideration. He has bought for 60 lakh, whereas the stamp duty value is 85 lakh. Right? So, he has bought for inadequate consideration. So, the difference between the stamp duty value and the consideration would be taxable under 56(2)(10) if it is exceeding the difference between the two, which is 25 lakh is exceeding 50,000 and is more than 10% of consideration. Both the conditions are there. 25 is more than 50,000 and is more than 10% of 60 lakh. So the 25 lakh will be taxable under 56(2)(10) in the hands of Mr. Y. And the TDS which will be there will be deducted on the stamp duty value, higher of 60 lakh or 85 lakh. It will be deducted on the stamp duty value. Are we clear? What about
Yes,
the rural agricultural land in the hands of X?
Non-taxable, ma'am. Rural agriculture.
It is not a capital asset, so no,
No
capital gain tax. For Y?
No TDS also. Because
No
it is a
TDS
rural.
also? But whether 56(2)(10) applies?
No, ma'am. Because rural agriculture land.
So under 56(2)(10), it refers to a property received for inadequate consideration. What is the meaning of property? What is the meaning of property? Capital asset. Property means a capital asset. Land, rural agricultural land is not a capital asset. So 56(2)(10) doesn't apply in respect of the rural agricultural land. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions, any doubt with respect to this? Yes?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, let us proceed to the next section, which is payment of rent by certain individuals or HUF. So, you have seen 194I, which is TDS on rent. Right? You have seen 194I, which is TDS on rent. There is another section, 194IB, payment of rent by certain other individuals which are not falling under the 194I. Under 194I, which individuals are falling? Whose turnover is more than 1 crore and 50 lakh for business. However, if you are not falling under 194I because your turnover is less than 1 crore or 50 lakh or an HUF, but you are making a payment of a rent to a resident exceeding rupees 50,000 for a month or part of the month, then you shall be required to deduct TDS at the rate of 2%. So, in case I am covered under 194I, I will go by that. But if I am an individual HUF who is not covered by 194I, so in that particular case, I will be governed by 194IB. So the payer is basically any person, any individual or HUF any individual or HUF I'm sorry, yes. Any individual HUF not covered by 194I. Meaning turnover less than rupees 1 crore or rupees 50 lakh. Right? And who is the payee? Any resident. That shall remain the same. Okay. Now, what is the timing here? What is the timing of deduction? At the time of credit or for the last month of the previous year or the last month of tenancy if the property is vacated during the year or at the time of payment in whichever is earlier. So, the timing of TDS is credit of last month of rent or the payment whichever is earlier. So I don't need to deduct for every month. Like under 194I, I have to deduct every month on month. But under 194IB, I have to deduct only in the last month of the rent which is being paid for the entire year. What is the rate? 2%. So the rate here is 2%. Unlike 10% under 194I, here it is 2%. And what is the threshold? The threshold is same as 194 at rupees 60,000. Then they say the provision of 203A shall not apply to a person required to deduct TDS in accordance with the provision of this section. Meaning, here also they don't need to obtain the TAN. Under 194I, you have to obtain the TAN. But here, no requirement for payer to obtain the TAN. Because these are small payers, they are not required to obtain the TAN. Are we clear? This point we will study when we will look at 206AA. Fine, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions, any doubt?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Then next is 194 IC, payment under specified agreement. It says notwithstanding anything contained in 194 IA. 194 IA was transfer of immobile property. Any person responsible for paying to a resident any sum by way of consideration, not being consideration in kind, which means consideration in cash, under the agreement referred to in 45(5)(a). What is the agreement referred to in 45(5)(a)?
Joint development agreement.
Correct, joint development agreement. So, section 194 IC payment in cash for the joint development agreement referred to in section 45(5). So if it is a payment in kind where the developer buys the land and gives the flat in that particular building that he develops, that on that there will not be any TDS under 194A. It is on the cash component. Cash component will include even the bank transfer. This doesn't mean only cash, but not in kind. What is the TDS rate? 10%. And there is no threshold here. There is no threshold here. The payee has to be the resident. The timing is credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Clear, students?
मैम डेवलपर पे करेगा ना मैम TDS?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Let's move to the another commonly used section in practice, 194J. Fees for professional or technical services. Okay. So 194J says any person, not being an individual or HUF. For individual or HUF, they say an individual or HUF whose total sales, turnover, gross receipt for the business or profession exceed 1 crore in case of business or 50 lakh in case of profession in the preceding financial year. So, (194J) TDS on professional technical services. Who is the deductor? Any person. For individual or HUF, turnover greater than rupees 1 okay. For paying to a resident. So payee has to be a resident. Any sum by way of fees for professional services, fees for technical services, remuneration or fees or commission by whatever name called other than those on which TDS is deductible under 192 to a director of a company. So if the director is an employee, the TDS will be under 192. If the director is working as a professional, the remuneration that he earns will be under 194G. Royalty or any sum referred to in 28(5)(a). What is 28(5)(a), students? Yes? Non-compete fee. 28(5)(a) is nothing but non-compete fee. Are we clear? So,
Yes, yes.
at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier, deduct an amount equal to 2% in case of FTS, not being the professional services, or royalty, where the royalty is in the nature of consideration for sale, distribution, or exhibition of cinematographic films, and 10% in other cases. So, what is my TDS rate? The timing is payment or credit, whichever is the earlier. My TDS is 2% in case of technical services, then 2% in case of royalties for the sale, distribution or exhibition of cinematographic film. And for 10% for other cases. No deduction shall be made where the sum or the aggregate of the sum paid during the financial year does not exceed 50,000 in case of professional services, 50,000 in case of technical services, 50,000 in case of royalty, 50,000 in case of the sum referred to in clause D, which is the non-compete fee. So basically what they are trying to say over here is, let's make a table. Nature of sum, threshold, and the TDS. So, technical services, %2. Fine. Professional services. So these thresholds are separate for each of it. It is not that, if you make a payment of 20,000 for technical services, 50,000 for professional services, on both the TDS will apply. No. Thresholds are independent for each services. Royalties. Finally, there is no threshold for the director remuneration. Therefore, from 1 rupee, the TDS under 10% applies. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
And in the case of
मैम डायरेक्टर इन ए प्रोफेशनल कैपेसिटी काम कर रहा है तो प्रोफेशनल सर्विस दे रहा है जैसे नहीं आएगा क्या?
Still 10% directly, because director remuneration by whatever name called.
ठीक है, डायरेक्टर रेम्युनरेशन बाय व्हाटएवर नेम इट इज कॉल्ड 10% टीडीएस ओके, लेकिन अगर वो प्रोफेशनल सर्विस के नीचे आ रहा है तो वो थ्रेशोल्ड अप्लाई नहीं होगा क्या मैम?
नहीं होगा. No, because it says director remuneration by whatever name called. Even if you say it's a professional service, it's a remuneration to director, there is no threshold.
Okay.
Okay. In the case of, if the payee is engaged in the business of operation of a call center, the TDS shall be 2%. So in case of payee engaged in operation of call center areas shall be 2%. Clear? Now, what is the meaning of professional services? Professional services means services rendered by the person in the course of carrying on legal, medical, engineering, architectural profession of accountancy, technical consultancy, interior decoration, or advertising, or profession which are notified under 44AA. Now, if you look, the advertising is put over here also, and it was there in the 194C also. Do you recollect? Under works contract also, we have seen that the works contract include 194C includes the advertisement. Yes or no? So whether 2% will be applicable under 194C or 10% will apply under 194G. What will happen?
डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द नेचर, मतलब किस टाइप का सर्विसेज ले रहे हैं उस पर डिपेंड करेगा.
How will you decide?
मतलब अभी जैसे कि अभी निर्मा ने जो एडवर्टाइजमेंट करने के लिए स्लॉट के लिए बोले, सो इट इज़ काइंड ऑफ ए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कि भाई मुझे स्लॉट्स चाहिए करके. अगर वो एडवर्टाइजमेंट वाला सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रहा है, मतलब एडवर्टाइजमेंट बना के दे रहा है या कोई अदर सर्विसेज दे रहा है, तो 194J आएगा प्रोफेशनल सर्विस के नीचे.
Very good. So, here the advertisement will cover any skill-based advertisement. So basically, let's say for example, as you rightly gave the example, that here it will cover the advertisement where there is a lot of skill involved. Like, they draft the pamphlets, they design it and all of that. That is under professional services. But if it's a contract, where I am giving a contract to a company to do my advertisement services, now they may be designing it, but there is a broader role over here. They are not just designing, they are finding out the, advertiser. It's not more of an individual service. See, professional services are more of individual service. A company cannot provide professional services. In legal, medical, engineering, they can provide legal services, but for medical, for example, engineering, it's more of an individual skill-based service. So when it's a skill required, 194J. It's a very, very thin line of distinction. But where it is like a contract which is given for entire advertisement day-to-day basis, then under 194C. Clear? Fees for technical services shall have the meaning under 917, which means technical, managerial and consultancy services. So FTS will cover, my technical service will cover technical, managerial or the consultancy service. Royalty will be as per 916. So this is what is covered under 194J. Then they say no individual or HUF shall be liable to deduct the income tax on the sum by way of fees for professional services in case such sum is exclusively for the personal purposes. So like if you remember, we discussed under 194C also that if the services are for the personal nature. So here if there is no TDS, if here also we discussed, if services are for personal use, 194C will not apply. Similarly, in case of the professional services, 194J will not be applicable if professional services are for personal use. Are we clear, students? Yes, any questions, any doubt? Yes or no?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Anything you want to ask? Now, what are the notified professions under 44A? So, as I have written here, professions notified under 44AA. So, professions notified for the purpose of 44AA are professions of authorized representative, film artist, company secretary, IT. And the CBDT has also notified the professions in relation to the sports activities, which are covered for the purposes of 194J. Sport persons, umpires and referees, coaches and trainers, team physicians and physiotherapists, event managers, commentators, anchors, and sport columnists. So any payment which is made to them will be covered under 194J. Are we clear? Yes or no? Yes?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now, again, let's look at certain circulars and notifications. So, there is a CBDT circular in respect of the third party administrator, TPAs. So, in the case of insurance business, what happens is, if you ever go to a hospital to claim the insurance, right, under the cashless facility, right, or even otherwise, you have your insurance card, right? Let's say I've taken the insurance from Bajaj Allianz and I go to hospital for any treatment, which is covered by the insurance. Now, in the hospital, there are these TPA centers, third party administrator center, who are basically operating for the different insurance company to clear the settlement of bill. So, they would take a bill for you for room charges, for medical charges and all of that. Then to take it to the TPAs, they would then connect to the insurer to clear that, to see that, okay, whether this is covered, these are the deductible payments, these are the covered payments, and then they will process this payment to the hospital so that you don't have to pay. Or either if you pay it, if you're not covered under cashless scheme, wherein you don't have to pay the cash, if you're not covered under that, then you will have to pay to the hospital and they will take the insurance from the insurer and will reimburse it to you. So whether 194J is applicable on payment to the hospitals by the TPAs on behalf of the insurance company. So when the TPA will pay the insurance to hospital on that, whether 194J applies. So the CBDT has clarified that the TPAs who are working for the insurance company and are making the settlement of insurance to the hospital are actually liable to deduct TDS under 194J on the payment to the hospital, because this is a medical service covered under the profession. So here, the TDS will be applicable in this particular case. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Next is the transaction charges paid by the members of the stock exchange for the taking the trades on the stock exchange. So, there are these brokers, right, who would pay the trading charges for the transaction charges for the trades taking place on the stock exchange. So, stock exchange is facilitating the trade of the stocks. So, the members of the stock exchange, which are brokers and all of that, they have to make the payment of these charges to the stock exchange. Whether this is fees for technical services and whether it will attract the TDS under 194J. So the Supreme Court in the case of Kotak Securities had examined this. It observed that the fees for technical services, as I wrote over here, includes technical, managerial and consultancy service. Now, what do we mean by technical? We understand what is managerial. Charges which are paid to manage the business, administration charges, all of that. Consultancy is when you do the consultancy. What is technical? So, the Supreme Court observed that the technical services are just like the managerial and consultancy, are specialized services and not the general services. So, where the specialized services are given, like, engineering service, some kind of technical inputs, technical drawings, all of that. That is a technical service which are catering to the specific needs of the customers. These transaction charges which are levied by the stock exchange are general services. These are levied on all the customers, not for some specific customer. These are some specialized services. These are not specialized. These are not exclusive service. These are general services for conducting the trades on stock exchange. Specialized service means what? When I'm approaching to the service provider for giving me some technical inputs. Here it is not the case. So the transaction charges are not technical services, but are in the nature of payments made for the facilities to be used of the stock exchange. And therefore 194J TDS will not be applicable in this case. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So here the TDS under 194J will not be applicable in this case. That is what has been held by the Supreme Court in the case of Kotak Secure. Fine. Any doubts? Any questions? Okay. Next is consideration for the use or right to use of a computer software is royalty. So, as I said, royalty is defined under section 916. Now, if you go to section 916, we will learn that in the international tax class also. So 916, which is there, defines the term royalty. Let me show you. It gives a very comprehensive definition of royalty. But there is an explanation 4 over there, which says that it is hereby clarified that the transfer of rights in respect of any right, property or information includes right for using or right to use a computer software, including the granting of a license, irrespective of the medium through which such right is transferred. So when a computer software is sold, technically, when you purchase Tally, Taxman, all these computer software, you're purchasing a product. Right? You do not get any right to modify the Tally source code. Can you alter the source code of Tally? The way it is written? No. You're only using the product, the final product. But the definition of royalty says that the right to use a computer software or right for using a computer software is royalty. So therefore, if the Act says so, any purchase of computer software is royalty, and therefore you have to deduct the TDS if the payment is more than 30,000 under 194G. Yes or no? Yes. However, the central government has issued a notification number 21/2012, which says that right to use or right for use computer software is royalty, as per the explanation 4 to section 916. However, the central government notification number 21/2012, what does it say? So let's say, for example, there is a manufacturer of software. He sells the software to a retailer, which further sells it to consumer or customer without any modification. So when the retailer makes the payment of purchase of software to the manufacturer, there will be TDS under 194J, because this is royalty. So again, when the consumer pays to the retailer, he will have to deduct the TDS. But the central government notification says that where the payment is made by the transferee for acquisition of software from a resident transferor. So if he is a resident retailer, then the TDS under 194J would not be attracted if the software is acquired in a subsequent transfer without any modification by the transferor. So this is a subsequent transfer, right? So here the TDS will not be applicable if the software is acquired without any modification. And the tax has been deducted either under 194J or 195 on the payment for any previous such transfer. So if the TDS is deducted either here under 194J or 195 in case of non-resident seller, then here again no TDS will be required under 194J if the transferee obtains a declaration from the transferor that the tax has been deducted along with the PAN of the transferee. Are we clear? Is this understood, students?
Last point.
Yes. So, if the manufacturer software sells to the resident retailer and he has deducted the TDS either under 194J or 195 if the manufacturer was the non-resident. Now, again, when the consumer pays to the resident retailer, he need not deduct the TDS under 194J if this retailer has sold the software without undertaking any modifications to the software. And this retailer has already deducted the TDS under 194J or 195. And this retailer furnishes the declaration to the consumer that yes, he has already deducted the TDS and gives the PAN. Then the consumer need not again deduct the TDS. So that there is no dual deduction of TDS on the amount. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So this completes your 194J. Okay? Fine. Last section for the day. 194M. Payment of certain sum by the individual or HUF. Now 194C applies to the individuals or HUF when the turnover is more than 1 crore or 50 lakh in the preceding financial year. 194H commission applies again for the individual or HUF when the turnover is more than 1 crore or 50 lakh. Similarly, 194J applies to individual or HUF when the turnover exceeds 1 crore or 50 lakh. Now, in the case of individual or HUF, where the turnover is less than rupees 1 crore in case of business or less than rupees 50 lakh in case of profession, then in case of contract, commission and the technical services. Right? In those cases, if I am paying to a resident, so this is my payer. My pay is resident. Then in these cases, so basically the payer is not covered by 194J, 194C or 194H. And he is making the payment for any work or commission, which is not insurance commission or brokerage, or by way of fees for professional services during the financial year. Here, sorry, it should not be technical, but the professional services. Only professional services are covered here, not the technical. So, technical services, royalties, non-compete, not covered. Are we getting it? So if an individual or HUF pays for technical services and its turnover is less than 1 crore or 50 lakh, it is not covered under 194M. Only for professional services, 194M applies. Then in that case, the TDS shall be, what is the TDS? 2%. Timing, credit or payment, whichever is earlier. And what is the threshold? 50 lakh rupees. So my threshold here is 50 lakh. And again here, the TAN number need not be obtained. No requirement to obtain the TAN. Are we clear, students? Yes?
Clear.
So it would be applicable to those persons also who doesn't have business or profession. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
Yes. So let us look at a question here. Examine whether TDS would be attracted in the following cases and under which section, and specify the rate of TDS. Assume all payments are made to resident. Mr. Ganesh, an individual carrying on the retail business with a turnover of 2.5 crore in the previous year 23-24. And in the financial year 24-25, he has made a contract payment for repair of residential house rupees 5 lakh. Which section?
It is residential house personal purpose. Right, ma'am?
Yes.
So it will not, 194C will not attack, and even for 194M to attack, it should be more than 50 lakhs. It is only 5 lakhs, so no TDS.
Yes. Very good. So here it is contract payment for the repair of residential house. Means it is for personal purpose. 194C doesn't apply. For the contract payment under 194M, he can be covered under 194M. Right? Because here I have given you that this turnover is less than 50 lakh or 1 crore, but this is not given in the Act. The Act simply says not covered by 194J, C or H. If I'm not covered by J, C or H, either because of my turnover is less or by any other reason, if it is a personal payment, or you can write here, payment for personal purposes. So in that case, 194M applies, but for 194M to apply, the payment should have been more than rupees 50 lakh. Here it is how much? 5 lakh. So 194C, 194M both doesn't apply. Clear? Payment for commission to Mr. Walish for business purposes, 80,000 in November 2024.
Business purpose commission 194H.
See, under 194H, there is no distinction between the personal and the business purpose. Yes or no? Even if it was for personal purposes, 194H does not have any exclusion of that sort. Only 194C and J has it. Yes or no? Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am,
So this, yes.
तो फिर 194M में भी 190 कमीशन वो 194H लिखे ना, तो 194M में कमीशन भी है ना मैम फिर?
हाँ, commission है, but see, if you're not covered by 194H, not because for personal purposes, but because your turnover is less. 194H, which is there, see, if you go back to 194H also, there is no exclusion for personal purposes. That is only there in C and H. It doesn't exclude any personal services. That is only for C and H. Now here, my turnover is more than 2.1 crore, which is 2.5 crore for the preceding financial year. For 194H, the threshold is 20,000. And this is more than 20,000 also. So therefore, in that case, there will be TDS at the rate of how much?
2%.
2% under 194H. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rajesh, a wholesale trader whose turnover was 95 lakh in previous year 23-24, Contract payment for the reconstruction of the residential house made during the period Jan to March 25, 20 lakh in Jan, 15 lakh in Feb and 20 lakh in March 25.
Less than 50 lakhs, not applicable, 194M.
How is it less than 50 lakh?
It is more than 50.
Yeah,
20,
55, sorry.
55 lakhs.
Yeah, it
It
is
is 55 lakh, right? So
194
here,
M.
194M. The threshold of turnover is less than 1 crore. So 194C will not apply. Plus, this is for the residential house. So personal payment, any which is 194C will not apply. So I'll go to 194M. For 194M to apply, this should be more than 50 lakh. This is more than 50 lakh. Then 2% of this will be applicable. Clear? Yes or no?
Clear, ma'am.
Then Satish, a salaried individual, payment of brokerage for buying a residential house in March 2025, 51 lakh.
194 M.
194M, because he's a salaried individual, he's not a business individual. So directly I'll go under 194M. 194H doesn't apply because it is not doing the business. So on 51 lakh, I'll apply 2%. Dheeraj, a pensioner, contract payment made during the October-November for reconstruction of residential house, 48 lakh.
Less than 50 lakhs.
Less than 50 lakh, 194H doesn't apply because he's a salaried individual. So he's not doing he's a pensioner, he's not having any business. So, and the payment does not exceed 50 lakhs. So 194M also not applicable in this case. Are we clear?
Yes,
Yes?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll stop here for today. We'll meet in the next class, but I want you to revise everything thoroughly because it is a very, very important provision. Okay? So thank you so much. We'll meet in the next class.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes.